It's Saturday, 29th of October. This is The Hoop Show. My name is Ben Reeve. Thank you for joining us. Joining me on the show today is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Paul James. Paul, we had a win. How are you feeling? How's everything? Is the power back on at the James household?
It felt a bit like the Gabba at points here. The power had been out for 23 hours at my place. Basically, all of Saturday just got knocked out, which, look, it's handy that I have parents that live 5 minutes away. I was able to take my kids over there. I went and dropped food off over there, all those sorts of things. But not ideal. Not an ideal start to the weekend, not considering the big working week I'd had. So
exactly. It's coming. Paul, for those that don't know, Paul is a teacher, and it's a big finish to 2023, as it always is at this time of year. Now, Paul, Cats had a lovely win, a very impressive win, a Cats type of a victory. It was unbelievable footy, especially in that fourth quarter. The Cats came home with a rush. Started the game with on fire as well with a couple of goals. But let's bring up the stats, and if you can just take us through some of the things from the from the game.
So as we can see, the Tigers a little bit listless in the end. 1-5-11 to the Cats 6-13 49. Katie Bretton being the sole goal scorer for the Tigers there, whilst we had 6 individual goal kickers. Everyone kicked one apiece. But I guess the leads in terms of scoring output, Parry, Shear, and Maloney, all with 1 each. On disposal front, Conti with 31 for the Tigers, Egan 28, and Sheeran 21. Whilst for the Cats, the perennials really, Georgie Pressparkas with 27, Amy Mack with 22, and Nina Morrison with the 16 disposals. Look, obviously a great result for the Cats. What'd you make of it?
Well, firstly, I didn't realise Ed Sheeran was playing, but he goes okay. E. Sheeran, I think it was, maybe spelled slightly differently. I thought, I was pumped. I was up and about. I didn't get to go to the game, but I was watching it on the Channel 7 Mate, I think it was, up and about early with the 2 goals to Chloe Shear and Pressparkas, up and about. But I said to my wife, it's going to go the same way it always does, isn't it? The Cats are going to start off firing, and then we're not going to fire a shot for the next 2 or 3 quarters. And sure enough, that happened. But it's hard to lose games when you have that many inside 50s. I think we had about 50 for the game. It was insane. Yeah,
it was a pretty dominant game for the Cats in some respects. Obviously, the scoreline kind of says a lot there. But even as you look at the disposals a little bit, the Tigers actually led the overall disposals 239 to 232. But there's a lot of, I guess it's where the ball was held, to your point, that things kind of swung in the Cats' favour. Our disposal efficiency obviously really, really helped, 69.8 versus 66.9. Efficiency inside 50, and this is where things really fell apart for the Tigers. They were 36.8% disposal efficiency inside 50 versus the Cats at 56%. So we're almost 20% better than them in that particular respect.
We were amazing. And we had,
the ball was there. We held it in. The only thing we couldn't do when it comes to disposal efficiency is actually put it between the big sticks. And that led to 11 behinds in a row at one point throughout the game. Not great.
I was about to say 11 behinds in a row, absolutely insane. But there was a really good highlight there in the second quarter. Towards the end of the second quarter, Chloe Shear went to the heavens, absolutely left planet Earth and took one of the hangers. Probably will win Mark of the Year for the second time in a row. I think did she win Mark of the Year last year for the hanger in the final against North Melbourne? I think she might have for that one. But
I'll double check.
Guaranteed she's going to win it again. That was it. And Parry didn't help it too much by cannoning into her from behind. She was coming down with the mark, but that was a highlight for me for the game. Chloe Shear absolutely goes nuts. But I did have a comment, and I'm keen to hear your thoughts while you're looking that up, Paul. The Cats look great against mediocre competition, but really don't look like they're at the level against those big 3. I'm talking about Melbourne, Adelaide. Maybe you could say Brisbane's fallen off a little bit. North Melbourne's sort of just a tier below that, but seems like we go okay against everyone else. Just those big ones, no good. So I'll be curious to see. I mean, I think we'll beat Hawthorn. We'll come to that game shortly, but I think we'll beat Hawthorn. But I don't know. Come finals, sure. I'm not sure if we've got the formula just yet. What do you think?
Yeah. So firstly, in terms of the Mark of the Year winner thing, Chloe wasn't even nominated for the 3 last year. So maybe it was a previous year. I don't really recall the mark specifically. So apologies, everyone. But when it comes to, I guess, our form across the board, I touched on it last week when I was doing the show solo. And you've kind of alluded to it at points as well. Like the Cats, they're coming and going. They're not playing the full 4 quarters at the moment, which is what's really, really hurting, I think. It's allowing oppositions to get in. Like we might get off to a good start, and then we put the queue in the rack for a little while. It's stuff that we've kind of seen from the Cats, like the men's team, before things really clicked into gear for 2022, where they'd play at a really high standard at points, and then at others, they just kind of go missing, and they'd let the opposition back in, or whatever the case happened to be, step on the gas really late, exactly like what happened yesterday, and, pinch a win or whatever the case happens to be. And that's certainly, I feel like, what we've seen over the course of this season as well. They've got the job done against the lesser opposition and good, but also it should be noted the Tigers and the Cats were level on wins going into the game yesterday. It was just the percentage golf that was quite wide beforehand. So I think we're totally up to it when it comes to some of the better teams in the comp. It's just they've actually got to play the full 4 quarters, because at the moment it's 2.5 or something like that, and you just can't give that opportunity to a team like a Melbourne, for example, that are just ruthless.
Well, I've done the ladder predictor, and thankfully the AFL website's updated it with that. But it didn't have there the other day. But I've done the ladder predictor, and I think that we'll be playing Brisbane in the first week of the elimination final, the first week, and that scares me a little bit. I would much rather play a Gold Coast or an Essendon. I reckon if we played Essendon again, we'd have them. But I'm very, very nervous about playing Brisbane again. I think Brisbane will lose to Melbourne in round 10. I think Melbourne should get the job done there. If they win, that changes things significantly, and I've got no idea. But we can finish as high as 5th and as low as 9th. Heaven forbid we'd miss the finals.
A little shout out also, you just mentioning obviously Melbourne, a little shout out to them for winning the McClellan Trophy, the most wins across the men's and the women's. It's one of those ones now they've changed this model. An award like that just kind of disappears like a fart in the wind, really. It's I think they need to rethink the way that they're doing it. I love the idea of having one for one that combines the men's and the women's, but at the same time now the celebratory nature of it's just kind of been lost because it doesn't quite work, I think, in this model. I really like the intent, but I don't think the delivery is quite right. So
I think it's because, a part of it is because you're staggered. You're having the AFL season, a slight overlap with the AFL women's season, but the men's have stopped. Men's have all gone on holidays to here, there, and everywhere, and the women are still going. And a lot of eyes of, I still love the AFL Women's W comp, but for the majority of AFL footy supporters, they're just not into it. So I would much prefer, and I haven't really given a lot of thought, but I'd much prefer if we had the season side by side like we do with the VFL. I think that even the women's VFL is I think before the season starts, it's all over the shop. There's plenty of footy to consume year round, all year round. But I think if we're going to do this award seriously, I think we need to line up. I'd love to have a curtain raiser before every AFL men's game, or a curtain closer, whatever the opposite of that is. Do you see a future where the men and the women's seasons align, or do you think it's deliberate from the AFL to spread out their season in saying, extend it out by 30 weeks or something like that?
No, I certainly see what they're going for with this model. They want to give the women the opportunity to shine and for their game to kind of stand on its own 2 feet and get more eyes on it. But I actually think in terms of getting more eyes on it, the best thing they can do is have it running parallel to the men. And whether it's like if you kind of, I don't know, I don't think they want to get the women's fixture out to being 23 matches and all that like the men's yet. But I think like having those where, the Cats and the Ds play, and it's the Cats and the Ds and for both men and women that play on the same day or something like that. Like you'd have totally synchronized fixtures. I think it'd be really, really cool. And obviously the only time where that falls apart is come finals time, because who knows who makes it. But
true.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that model works. It gets more eyes on the game, more marketing dollars around the game, which is obviously one of the big things around the CBA and all of those sorts of things. I think there's a lot to be said for that, because right now, as you say, people switched off. The men's players have gone overseas, so you're not even seeing them necessarily in the crowd supporting, which is what you'd really want as well.
Or tweeting or posting anything about it, which is really
the engagement's basically non-existent, and that's because the men totally deservedly going, okay, I've done, my year is over. It's time for a break, and they go and take their break, but then they're not able to engage. So, I don't blame them in the slightest, but it does mean that you don't have that natural support and that building of momentum. So hopefully it's something they can look to fix in the future.
And it's probably a conversation for one of these off-season videos that we'll put out at some stage, but just how we structure a much deeper dive into how we structure that. I'd love to see an AFLW grand final. I'd love to see the AFL finals be pre-grand final rather than just after the home and away. And I'd love to see the women's grand final on the weekend before the men's grand final, just to sort of fill that space and to give them all that attention during that sort of week where everyone's desperately seeking footy content. It would mean probably, yes, we're not going to have a 23-round AFLW season, but you'd probably start the women's comp, possibly even when the bye round starts, something like that in the men's season, just to sort of fill that space a little bit more as well. Or just give the whole men's comp a bye round completely off and start the women's round in between. So again, a conversation for another time, clearly. But
I feel like another one of Ben's big rant.
Oh,
videos
I love a rant video.
Crazy ideas. I feel like that's just been stoked here. So,
and look, we're pre-recording this video, so it may age a little bit by the time some people get around to watching it. But I don't know if you saw, Paul, one of the actors from the Friends series,
Matt Perry,
just passed away. Well, the news is just starting to break, maybe 15, 20 minutes before we started recording this. So for maybe some of our younger viewers, maybe they haven't watched the show, but for anyone who's in their 30s or 40s or older, probably are familiar with that show through the 90s and noughties.
Yeah.
A big show. He was probably one of the biggest stars in the world for a period of time there. So that's a bit sad, but it's a footy show. Let's get back to the footy. I want to talk a little bit about a couple of players that stood out for me before we look ahead to next week. I thought Jackie Parry was really, really good. I will bring up the current leaderboard on the Roll of Honour shortly, but I wanted to mention a couple of other players that didn't get on the poll there. But I thought Jackie Parry was great. She's currently ranked 4th in the comp in contested marks. Absolute star. Georgie Rankin, surprisingly, you don't hear a lot about Georgie Rankin, but she's got a disposal efficiency of 81% across the season. So she's an absolute freak, a gun. Chloe Shear as well. We love Chloe Shear. I think she's equal 3rd in goals at the moment as well. So a couple of stars there. Did I talk about Claudia Ganjaka being 3rd in intercept possessions in the comp as well? An absolute gun. So yeah, really, really happy with that. And look, I think you mentioned before when you did the results, but Mon Conti, she's a class above, isn't she? Every time I watch her play, I think, goodness me.
I'd argue, and if I just focus on the confines of this one game, I'd say her and Georgie are the exact same level. I know, like statistically,
Really? Okay.
Mon was just slightly higher, but at the same time, Georgie played 10% less game time. Mon was, I think, the needs of the Tigers really drove her numbers a little bit, and kind of she got probably an extra 10 to 15 minutes in the game, or probably 10 minutes in the game over Georgie, and that's enough to rack up a few more disposals and 1 or 2 more clearances and all that. Like it's, I think those two are right up there, like the absolute top end of the comp, and I think they're pretty neck and neck. Just to double check that, 95% time on ground for Mon versus 83% for Georgie.
I don't know if you've had a sneak peek at the current poll to see who's leading the Roll of Honour this week. I'll bring up the stats. I knew this straight away. It was going to be this.
You can call it already.
Call it already almost. It's for the 5th time. The poll's not over yet, but for the 5th time, it's going to be Georgie Prasparkas again, surely. And I wouldn't be surprised around 10 if she gets it again. She's been an absolute star this year, a true champion. She's going to win the club best and fairest. Will probably
daylight second.
Top 10 in whatever the women's version of the Brownlow is. I think it's got a name yet.
Best and fairest.
Very, very creative. She's a star, so an absolute star. But look, let's before we close the show, we've got to talk a little bit about next week. So we've got Hawthorn, who are currently ranked 13th. I think that might change possibly because I think still got to play today. But we're playing them at Cardinia Park. It's a Saturday twilight game. I can't recall what the result was last time around. I'm pretty sure we would have beaten them. Unless this is the first time we've played them, I can't recall. I haven't done my research on that. I'm normally pretty good. But I expect that we'll get the job done. Whether we finish 6th or 5th will depend on some other results, I believe. But I'm going to this game pretty confident. Paul, what about you?
Yeah, I think we'll pretty confidently get the job done against the Hawks in this particular one. It's the rivalry in the AFLW between the two teams. Not quite what it is for the men's yet, let alone compound the fact that the Hawks aren't the strongest of teams right now. They are. If your theory of us being some flat track bullies is correct, then we will absolutely pants them. And I think regardless of actually which of us is correct, the result's going to be the same. We will smack the Hawks around a little bit this week. And if we can kick straight, look out.
Ugh. I can't wait to smash them. I actually don't care if it's men's or women. I want to smash them.
I agree. But
I'm very, very keen to bury them. And I hope that we never lose to them. Well, we will eventually, but yeah, it'd be nice. But as I said before, I think we're going to play. I think it's looking like we're going to play Brisbane. I mean, you might do your own ladder predictor later on and come up with a different.
I've got us playing the Pies.
You got us playing the Pies. Okay, that'll be interesting. That'll probably be at an Icon Park or something like that, I'm guessing. I think Collingwood finish higher than us on the ladder, the way it's sort of looking at the moment. But Cats, I'll be good. I mean, I'm going to try to get along to the game against Hawthorn next weekend, and then fairly certain, unless we're playing interstate, that I don't think I'll be getting on a plane. But if we play in Victoria, I'm very excited to get along to the elimination final, and hopefully we don't get our hearts broken by a point again like we did last year against North. Hopefully we can push for a semi-final, which I think is probably our ceiling this year, a semi-final. If we go any further than that, I think that's a pass mark for us, a semi.
Probably wouldn't have been when we were making these judgments during the preseason, though. I feel like during the preseason we were a little more confident than what we're maybe feeling now.
Top four was a trajectory, but then and starting 2-0 as well, it was like, oh yeah, we're on the right money here, but it wasn't meant to be.
It's not quite worked out so far.
Not yet. Any other closing thoughts, mate, before we finish the show? And I guess we haven't got any behind the play coming up anytime soon, but we do have. I was saying to Paul on the Twitter through the week and on the DMs that I've got a long list of about 70 names. I've probably added to that since I've sent him that message, but I'm keen to get some.
That's right. Keep racking them up. I'm keen to see what you can. And for anyone who's unaware, Ben does all the real legwork when it comes to this side of things. Ropes in all these guests, and then I get to be the one that sits on the other side of the camera and be the quote unquote talent. So it does an incredible job, and it's always kind of exciting to see the DMs light up from Ben, because who knows what he's managed to line up. So
it's usually insert name with a tick emoji. Paul knows exactly what I'm talking about.
I know that format.
All right, that'll do for us. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. We love you all. We'll see you probably during the week. I'll come up with my footy tipping video. Hopefully I've done a little bit better in the footy tipping this week. I'm struggling, Paul. I'm not going very well on the footy tipping, but stay tuned for that, and I'll see how we go. I might even get a midweek video out. Hopefully there'll be a bit of news dropping in Catland through the week.
Yeah, maybe.
I might put something out on a Wednesday or a Thursday there. Mate, thank you again. Thanks for joining us, everyone else. And we'll see you on the next one. Stay Geelong, everyone, and go Cats.
You guys.